Why is Angel Reese talking her way out of Chicago? Because she doesn't want to be in Chicago anymore. That's the reality of the situation. She don't like the way the situation is run. She don't like the management. Honestly, it looks like the optics are the same thing that DeWanna Bonner did, except she's just doing it very loudly. Now, I looked at the comments. This is the comment that sparked everything. I'm not settling for the same shit we did this year, Reese told the Tribune. We have to get good players. We have to get great players. That's a non-negotiable for me. I'm willing and wanting to play with the best. And however I can help to get the best here, that's what I'm going to do this offseason. So it's going to be very, very important this offseason to make sure we attract the best of the best, because we can't settle for what we have this year. That was the one that set everything off, because basically you just kind of dump it on all your teammates. Basically what you're saying is what you got currently is not good enough. Here's the problem. What she's saying is not untrue. But that's also the situation for a whole bunch of other teams. Everybody goes through this. Every team has to go through this. What do you think happens when you are a top pick? Why do you think the top picks go to the worst teams? This is part of the process. This is what you have to go through. Everybody doesn't have a great owner. You just don't have the best of the best when you come into a bad situation. I wish everybody could talk their way out of a situation, because if everybody could do that, only the best of the best would win. People get sick of it and they lose interest. So you got to have parity one way, shape, or form. So I get what she's saying, but you cannot, and this is my opinion as a former player, you cannot throw the people under the bus that you work with every day. You can't do that. You might get into that conversation after you've gone. That was a calculated move on her part. She is trying to force her way out of Chicago. She's trying to talk her way. Now, half the people in the locker room don't want to deal with you, because you just said half the locker room ain't shit. They not good enough. They'll never be good enough. We got to get other people in here that are good enough. And then you said what you said about Vandersloot. Let the ownership do what the ownership does. Let the GMs do what they do. You have no control over that. So now you looking like the villain.
Yeah, like, I'll take that role. I'll take the bad guy role, and
That's sometimes you got to keep the in-house stuff in-house. You might have been correct on some of your points. You got to get better players in, all of that stuff. But that happens from every organization. Every organization has these same issues. Las Vegas, they weren't always at the top. New York weren't always at the top. Atlanta wasn't always at the top. So now you in a situation where you got to take your lumps. Now it's your turn. What do I always say? Everybody get a turn. Now it's Chicago's turn. It's not your fault that Chicago's got a rocky history with what they've done with other players, but now you find yourself in that situation. Now what you've done is you have willingly become a cancer in the locker room, because now the locker room is split, because now you got people responding to your comments like, I'm done, I'm over with. I think that was Rachel Banham that said that. And then some people will say, well, Rachel, what is Rachel Banham going to do? She's not good enough. Well, tell that to Rachel Banham. Tell it to her face. You see her every day. She's had some games and she's had some rough spots, but so have you. There is no dispute who the biggest star in Chicago is as far as the WNBA. You still got to deal with other people. You don't deal with people, you deal with personality. And what you putting out there, you have willingly become a cancer and split the locker room. You're trying to force Chicago's hand. Here's the question. Well, what happens if they don't get rid of you? What happens if they keep the star in-house? We're going to play this to the ultimate end. What if they do that? As far as business goes, you still bring more people to the arena. So if you're just talking about business, who are the Sky going to bring in that's going to replace that type of attraction? Because you're still in the same boat. If they do replace you, that means whoever they replace you with, they got to win more games. That's the other part of this. You didn't win more games than Teaspoon did last year. So all of these moves and maneuvers and all of the politicking and things that happened was a failure. You still didn't make the playoffs. You almost made the playoffs last year, but they wanted to get rid of Kennedy, but all of that's not your fault. That's the management, and that's the stuff that you have to deal with if you are going to be at this professional level. There are some things that you really have no control over. Jordan wasn't in a great situation when he got to Chicago. That was the worst team in the league. You know how I know that? Because they got the first pick. That's what determines greatness, not trying to put yourself on another great team. I got to get great players. Everybody wants great players. Do you have an organization that can build great players, or do you just want to go to a team that's already winning and just kind of insert yourself and go along for the ride? Are you good enough to change the culture? Are you good enough to take your team to the championship level? Because that is the claim that you take when you talk like you talk and you maneuver and act like you act. It costs to be the boss. There is an expectation and a responsibility, and there is definite accountability when you say, I'm the best of the best. Yes, it's me too. And you do all the talking that you talk. Everybody talks that smash about Angel Reese. She can't play. She's not as good as she thinks she is. Me personally, all I know is she keeps getting the double doubles. She keeps scoring. She keeps getting rebounds. She keeps getting blocks. She keeps getting steals. Her defensive game is unquestionable. That's her claim to fame. And for as many people that rip on her, you can't dispute the stats. And it's the other stuff that keeps it from going over the top. You're going to have your diehard Angel Reese fans. Point, period, end of paragraph. There are a lot of fans that are going to ride or die with Angel Reese. Wherever she go next, they're going to follow her right over that way. But there's a big contingency of those fans that are also going to be loyal to Chicago, and they're going to stick with Chicago. So now when you come back into town, you the op. I can understand where her frustration comes from. However, there are ways to deal with it. What she said in the media, in my opinion, I thought that did cross the lines, because you calling out your teammates. You calling out your teammates in the article when you see them face to face. What that says is you ain't got the guts to talk to them face to face. That's what it sounds like. Now, whether that was your intention or not, I don't know. Obviously, you're going to say it wasn't. You put out the apology and all that kind of stuff. Well, how about this? Just because you can say something don't mean that you should, because this is going to cause problems. Now the pressure is on you. If you stay, the pressure is on you. If you go, the pressure is on you, because if you go somewhere else and you still do the same things and you're not winning, now what? If you are winning, what kind of contribution are you doing? So, okay, so then have you changed the culture, or have you made it worse? That's the situation you want to find yourself in. And that's the situation that the best players, what they try to do. If you leave a situation, when you leave it, is it better than when you got there?